Welcome to the Flat Earth podcast. We're not in the studio this morning. I thought we would get out in the fresh air. This is the forest, just a couple of minutes from my house. Just out and about, you know. If you want to find out anything more about the podcast, do get on over to the flatearthpodcast.com. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, will you? Just take a moment to like, subscribe, press the little bell icon and select all. Then you'll get all the video content that we're doing, all the podcast content, the 1046. And we are launching a new channel very soon. And I've been talking about it for a while, but it's coming. The ABC of EDC. It's a channel that's dedicated to all things everyday carry, tech, watches, jewelry, anything you carry and anything that carries you. That's going to be the tagline. I'm super excited about that. That's coming soon. Anyway, I'd like to take a moment just to talk to you about a couple of things, really. I've been thinking about things that I say. You know, in the Bible it says, I think is it life or death is in the power of the tongue. That actually things we say or don't say can have a great effect on people and also on ourselves. I've been thinking about the things, what are the phrases I say often that reoccur again and again. And I thought of a couple and I asked my family and they said the same. So here's a couple of phrases I often say. When someone is griping about some perceived problem they have in their life, when they're like, the car's broken down again, or, this thing I bought doesn't fit me, or, my holiday's been moved, or, the extension to my house is taking longer, or whatever. Now, although all these things can seem important and can at times fill up the lens of your life and make you think like this is a really bad situation, my view is always, even though that's true, okay, and I'm not trying to belittle any of your troubles, right, but it's first world problems, right? Like a while ago, we had two cars and one of the cars broke down. And it filled my day and I was like, this is awful, my car's broke down, all that. And I'm just like, I had to say to myself, I had to remind myself, man, first world problems. I had to remember how many people worldwide don't even have one car. Yet here I am saying one of my cars has a problem with it and I've got the money to fix it even. So it's not like it's a nightmare. I didn't write it off. Eventually it did die, but not at that time, First world problems. And I say this to my family all the time. They moan or they gripe about something and I say to them, first world problems, and it is unhelpful. What I'm trying to do and what's actually happening is different. Now, I don't know if you know this, the power of words, right? You can say something and people hear the information, the sounds, but they don't hear the emphasis, the heart behind it. So I say to my friends or family, I say, first world problems. And what I mean is like, keep it in perspective. Yes, it's bad, but you'll be all right. You'll be all right. You have a home to live in, you have food in your belly, you have some money in your pocket, you'll be all right. But what they hear is just like, stop freaking moaning. You moany get first world problems. That's not what I mean. So I often say that, I realize these are things I say, Another thing I say and again, it's around like when we're upset or something doesn't go the same way. I think most of the things that reoccur are about this, but sometimes when my kids moan about something, I want to do this, want to do that, and they're young, man. My kids are like 11 and 14, so sometimes little things they want to do or want to buy or have or experience are really, really important to them because their lives are so much shorter at this point. They haven't got the breadth of experiences that adults have, right? So they'll say stuff and I say, look, it's all right, look, some people are born without heads, don't moan. And they always look at me and they say a couple of things like, firstly, shut up. And secondly, I don't think anyone's been born without a head, Dad. And I'm like, I'm sure there's somewhere someone was born without a head, And I don't think it's true. I know there's a lot of vital organs you can survive without, but I don't think a head is one of them. So anyway, these are a couple of things I say, and what have you got? Have you got things like this that you find yourself repeating, little catchphrases that you just say? Another one I've got, and this was from my years of pastoring and dealing with interpersonal relationships and families and cultures within the church and within groups of people for like 15 years. And I'm not northern. Before I say this, I'm not northern. I'm as southern as it gets. I'm a North London boy. But I used to say, there's nowt so queer as folk. You ever heard this saying? There's nowt so queer as folk. And it was a way of saying, look, you'll never cease to be surprised about how janky people are, how strangely they behave, how psychotically they act, how against their own interests sometimes they do stuff, cutting off their nose to spite their face. You know, people again and again make the same mistakes and make the same false promises about themselves. People have a great ability for self-delusion a lot of times. And I used to say, "Nowt so queer as folk." That's another little saying I've got, you know. What are things like this that you say that you find yourself repeating again and again and again? And lately I've been thinking to myself, maybe I should be more careful with the things I say, more careful with who I say them to. There was when I used to work for a church, when I first began my kind of pastoring career, I guess, back in those days, I sat down with my boss, and he had this kind of, I guess it was a business practice. He'd have a meeting with you, and after he'd said everything he wanted to say, he'd say, "Right, repeat back to me what I just said to you, or what we just discussed." And I hated it, because sometimes in the meeting I'd drift off. I wouldn't be paying attention. I'd be out the window, butterflies, you know, just like, just gone, man. You know, I'm thinking about other stuff. I'm always doing this. If we ever meet and you see me sort of glaze over, that's natural, man. I'm just making your life more interesting in my imagination. I'm adding Bond girls and explosions and knife fights and slow-mo, you know, lens flares and drone shots. That's just what I do. So sometimes in those meetings where he'd say, "Okay, repeat back to me what we just said. Tell me what I just told you." I'd find it hard, but and it is a bit businessy and a bit American and a bit weird, but it made some sense, because often when I would then go, "This is what you just said," or "This is what you just want," he'd be able to go, "Oh, actually, no, you've misheard me. Let me rephrase that." Or, "You've misunderstood me. Let me come at it again." And I knew that then, and even I kind of pushed back at it because I don't like that sort of stuff. But there was some common sense in it. And I think what I'm saying is, we all say stuff and interact with people, and we think that's my interaction, that's what I said. But is it? Sometimes we have to go back in and check with people, because that "Nowt so queer as folk" thing applies not to everyone else but me. And the first world problem things applies not to everyone else only but me. And people are born with heads, you know, have some gratitude. That applies to me as well. I'm not the perfect guy over here examining everybody's messed up life, you know. So I've been thinking about the power of words, and although I don't want to officially sit down with everyone I interact with and go, "Okay, what have you just heard me say? Repeat back to me what I just said to you." Although I'm not interested in doing that, you know what I mean? Like, there is something where I want to be more careful. Yesterday I was out for a walk, walking the dog, and I saw this tree in the distance, and from a distance you'd see it just like green, leafy tree. You know, we're in the summer months now. It's got life on it. It's great stuff. But as I walked up to this tree, I began to see a million little bite holes in every leaf and in parts of the stem and the branch and stuff, you know. And I realized, oh man, no, this tree is under attack. This tree is under siege. This tree is suffering the death of 1,000 cuts, these nibbles, you know. People like that. From afar, people can look good. From afar, people can look like everything's going well and growth is underway and health is present. But if you were able to get closer, if you were able to push a conversation just a little bit deeper, you'd find, no, actually, there's lots of nibbles, there's lots of stuff going on. There's things where they don't feel as secure as you assume. There are places where people don't feel like they are as well equipped as they should be. And in those moments, you can go, oh, hold on, this is not what I thought it was. There's actually something deeper here than I might have pushed on some buttons I'd rather not have pushed on. I think after these last couple of years, we're only just beginning to see the fallout from the lockdown procedures and the constant fear and panic and distrust of governments and now with this fuel crisis and wars in Europe. And I think more and more of us are gonna, our cracks are gonna show. More and more of us, you're gonna see where people are nibbled and where the holes are. And it's going to be harder and harder to present that kind of look that we want of strength and of security and of a happy life. I think I covered this in a podcast a couple of whiles ago, the end of civilization as we know it. I don't think it's the end of the world yet necessarily. Sorry, my dog's here wanting food. You want some food, boy? yeah, I think the cracks that we saw in these last couple of years are going to widen. I think we're going to see more and more people at breaking point. And I think there's never been a more important time for me anyway, to mind my words and consider how people are doing. You know, I hate those little bullshit pithy sayings that people put on Facebook, you know, like, you never know what people are carrying and be careful, you know, whatever, you know, cheesy kind of like, mate, I hate those things. But maybe there's some of them that are right. You don't know what war people are fighting and what they are carrying. And one person, it might be the car's broken down. Another person, it might be someone who's dying in their family, or there is some health problem they've got, or whatever. And being more careful with your words is something I need to work on, and maybe we all do. You know, these things I say and how they're heard. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing. Maybe you're good with this. Maybe you're like, Rick, I'm all right with this. Great. If you are, disregard this podcast. Carry on as you like. But if not, then maybe join me and just go, you know, actually, I'm going to be a bit more careful. I'm going to make sure if I say something and I feel that sort of icky moment with someone, you know, you get an icky moment where you say something, but then I'll just leave that. Hopefully it was all right. Maybe don't. Maybe we go in and we say, look, man, I didn't, you know what I meant when I said that. You know, like what I was really trying to say, you know. Because life really is about relationships. It's about, like, the health of a life in some way can be measured by the health of the relationships. And part of that is how we speak to one another, isn't it? Part of that is how we interact with one another. And it's being on the other end too. It's when someone says something to you and it hurts you or upsets you, it's being able to go, you know, actually, unless they're a stranger and it's a road rage moment or something, which we all get, you know, I'll kill you, you mother, you know, whatever. Like, just in a traffic situation, I think all these things are acceptable. Ignore all I'm saying. But in normal cut and thrust of life, you know, if there is someone you can go back to and say, you know, you said that, and is this what you meant? And that's always the best thing to say. The best thing to say. I'm trying to write a book, and I had this a guy stateside, there was a friend of a friend, and I'd met him and stuff. He's an author and he worked in publishing for years. So I sent my manuscript off to America, and he read through my entire, this is a kind of service he offers, we paid for it, and he's a great guy, and he read through the whole book for me. And then, so we had a meeting before talking about writing. I sent him the manuscript, 55,000 words of this book I'd written that emerged out of me over a decade and a bit, you know, just real heartfelt stuff. He read it, and then he sent me like a written report on it, and then we had a chance to have another conversation at the end. First conversation went well. I sent the book off. I'm expecting feedback, which is like this: Rick, I got to tell you, best book I ever read. It's the best book I've ever read. But what actually happened was like feedback, actual feedback, what I'd asked for. And it was a document that broke down some of the issues and problems with my work. So I read this, and I don't take critique well. Maybe you're like me. I'm not someone who handles, I don't know how to take encouragement, and I don't know how to take discouragement. I'm somewhere in the middle. But my three reactions were this. My first reaction, fuck you. Like, fuck you. What do you know? How dare you? You know? Second reaction was, fuck me. Fuck me, he's right. Third reaction was, what the fuck do I do now? How do we go through this? And we had that final meeting, we had a final Zoom meeting, we're still in lockdown. And I'd gone through all the processes of anger and distrust and hate, and I was going to hire a hitman and get him to go stateside, take this guy out, bust a cap in his ass, you know, all this sort of stuff. But I got through it, and I began to go, you know, actually, I need some clarification. So I sat down and thought about all the problems I had with what he'd written in the document that was assessing, these words he'd given me, right? And I went back and I said, help me understand what you meant here. Could you say that again differently? And at almost every point that my guy was able to sit down and flesh out what he said, it wasn't just in cold, hard, written messaging words, right? Boom, textual. At every point I was able to say, I understood it as this. Is this what you meant, or did you mean something different? He went, oh, no, I meant something entirely different. At nearly every point, I was able to go, I agree with you completely. I think you're spot on. I think, like, brilliant. You've named some stuff. You've located some stuff that I kind of knew was out there in the ether, but I had nothing to attach it to. Now you've given me a framework and words. And I walked away from that meeting with a whole bunch of rewrite suggestions and ways to remodel my manuscript. And it's gone from strength to strength because of that. But if I hadn't have gone back and asked for like an enhanced explanation, I could have gone away and just gone, screw this, man. I can't believe I paid for this service. The guy just messed up my manuscript. He done talk shit about my words. Like, I'm not interested in this. But no, man. When I was able to sit down and ask him to refine his terms, it really, really went well. We need some mechanisms like this. We need to be able to offer them to people when you say something. And I always, if I'm going to fall out with someone, I fall out generally by text messages or one-way messages, where it's just I say something and then we don't get to talk again, and it's bad. Miscommunication, right? We need to put mechanisms in our life so that the things we say and the things we hear, we're able to actually go back and chew over them with the person about what we said or about what they said to us. If we can do that, man, that's kind of like a pathway to health. But that has to do with relationship. It's relationship. It's relating to people, and that's a very difficult thing. And that's the thing that I think most of us struggle with, if we're honest. If we'd really kind of take an honest look at how we function. I think sometimes we're afraid to go back and ask for definition about. I once heard someone say, like, it was as a man. I do a lot of work, or have done a lot of work with men and men's groups, and I had someone say, like, do you have someone in your life, do you have another man or group of men in your life that you can go to and you can say, be honest with me, what kind of man am I? That is a scary question, and that question is only safely received in deep relationship. You might have other questions. You're a woman. What kind of woman am I? What kind of boss am I? What kind of child am I? What kind of father or mother am I? What kind of friend am I? You know, these are deep questions. And I think sometimes we don't want to talk about this stuff, right? We don't want to talk about this stuff. Anyway, that's probably all I've got to say. I don't know how this has gone, man. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, normally we're in studio, didn't feel like doing it, popped out. Hope the audio's been all right. Hope it's been comforting if you've been able to hear the birds tweeting and the stuff like that. It's been very interesting doing this and watching woodland walkers come by and just wonder what the hell I'm doing. Some ask, some don't. You know, no one's been mean and said anything horrible. But you know, that's how queer as folk, right? Bless you guys. I'll see you tomorrow for the weigh-in. I'll see you on Tuesday for pro tips, and Thursday again for another podcast. Bless you guys. Later.